Yeah. So Stella, thank you for your time joining me on this conversation. And
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I was
and
very
waiting so long time.
Yes, it took. Hopefully, it won't take as long for the next conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to talk to you, and I think your work caught my attention because when was it? Was it April, May? And
so so the Zoom performance starts in April the first time. So this collaboration together with Ofri Knani and Evan Siebens. So I think we did our first Zoom performance in April this year.
Yeah. So this caught my attention because April was like really a month into the pandemic. And one of the things that hit me straight away when the pandemic started is that most people, they were just like bringing the physical art digitally, like scanning or using like Zoom to transmit it. But the actual conception, like creative conception of the artwork wasn't really affected by the new situation we were in. So when I went to your performance, I was very like intrigued on how quickly you obviously, I mean, was part of a whole trajectory of research that maybe allowed you to adapt that quickly. And but in a matter of weeks or a month, you were able to put something up on Zoom that really made me experience what is new reality. I remember, like you were saying, getting close to me, and then I get close and say, what's the distance between us? Well, is it 10,000 kilometers or is it 40 centimeters? And then like that started to deconstruct your perception of time and how many, what was some of the questions. So now close your eyes and tell me a secret, and then you share a secret, and then you feel like you are close to the other person. And when you close the eyes, the other person could be next to you. And so you were like, and then at some point towards the end of the performance, I felt like we were all in the same room, and I couldn't even think of a secret that you would listen. So I thought it was like a brilliant experience. And
yeah, so I think the pandemic was for all of us a new situation, and when Ofri actually initiated this performance, and she worked a lot about thinking about touch and how touch will change in the digital world, will change our life. And she invites me because I'm not in the digital world at this moment at all. So now at this moment we are talking towards each other. So, but actually I'm thinking a lot about body sensory and the abilities of our body and to use the imagination of thinking as another body or thinking as another material. So in my work, it's very important that the way of the how I get with my possibility to be empathic, to get into a new situation or in a new medium, or to think myself as I could be you at this moment. So I think when we are now communicating, so this is actually, I think this is what I'm really interested in. So I'm interested in how communication is based on language on one side, and on the other side, how the language starts in our body. So where the language comes from, and what is the need to invent, what was the need very, very long time ago to invent a language. And so in my work, I try to go very, very far away where we come from. And I think this is something what is fascinating me, in the Zoom performances we did, that we can invent our imagination in a way that we can get closer to each other, even if we can't see us. So even if we are not in the same room, even if we are not in the same situation, because that's why it was very important for me to know more about, a little bit about where are you at this moment and where I am. And because I'm now to get in dialogue with you, or to try to get in dialogue with you, is based on my body archive. It's based on my body archives. And I think we are in this situation to making digital interventions or performances. I think it's not the question of being very good in the technical way, or it's more about to go deeper into the way how we think about our body and how we are able to transform our body into a new way of communication. I think this was the interesting part for me for the performances.
Oh, sure. What do you have to unlearn to make that happen?
Actually, in the pandemic time, I unlearned the touch. So I put myself for 6 weeks in completely in the isolation. So I was completely isolated, and out of that I made a research about what kind of needs comes out of my body if I'm losing the presence of other bodies. So, and I think this was very important for creating the performance, to think about the lack of being touched. And I mean, touching is not the sexual way of touching. Touching means also, for example, I'm looking at you now, but actually I'm not looking at you because I'm looking into the camera. Yeah. So I can't see your eyes, like sending that your eyes are sending something to me. I can analyze your face at this moment, yeah. But I see my body in front of my computer. So the imaginational part, I think this is something to unlearn. So your question was what I unlearned. So at first I put myself in an isolation to take this situation really as a situation that is a collective experience, because I could share my experience with other people. They were not so isolated than I, but I had a lot of experience to know, because I thought about what kind of bodies touches me in my whole life. So this was the research I did for 6 weeks. And then and this imagination, or this kind of archive of movement that comes out of my body, was very important to understand what does it mean to be touched. So I can be touched only by eyes, or I can be touched even if there's another body moving next to me, for example, on the dance floor. I can also be touched by this body that is next to me. And it's not important to see the body for being touched. So the way to be to be connected to other people and to be connected in a communicative way, I think what I unlearned is that the language is not such as important to be touched, because the language is so in this level of brain and face and mouth and eyes, but where is the territory in my body when I am touched by somebody? So I think this was these were my thoughts during this time, and the way of thinking about touching can be, or to be touched is something which is very, very complex, and it's not based on the real touching something.
Amazing. And in Brazil, 56% of the population is Black. And so we have a lot of kind of epistemological kind of revolution in a way going on, because especially with the pandemic now, we have some of these Black leaders with 1 million followers that are starting to kind of really put their views up. And so my question to you, like coming from our kind of what we are living here, and do you want me to close the window? I'm in the high street here, and would that help?
No, it's good, but I thought I can't understand the last sentence. That's why I came closer to my...
Yeah. And so I would think if you're in a way kind of analyzing a situation where you potentially like reset language, like you start from a blank canvas to see how you build language from like in a different situation. And what's the role of race on that? Does it plays a part before or after this reset of language?
So I think from the part of being white, it was always very difficult for me. I think at this moment it's a very important question regarding our situation, because the pandemic really shows a lot of dysfunctional situations in our society and in our global world. So the pandemic makes something visible that was also visible all the time, but it made things more obviously visible. And because we were we really actually saw that we are on the same boat, but so when I'm thinking about communication and about language, I think that language is the first thing that, or the first, or the last, but it's something which is shows us how you are educated. And English, or there are some languages, they comes from they are connected to hierarchies. For example, if I'm speaking very well English, und wenn ich jetzt aber Deutsch zu dir reden würde, würdest du mich überhaupt gar nicht verstehen und ich könnte so weiterreden und du wirst ausgegrenzt. So if I would speak German all the time, you wouldn't understand me, and then you are forced to learn German to understand me. So I think the language is something which is very it's the first moment or the last moment of colonialization that makes bodies that separate bodies from other bodies, because in a way of how I speak, I know different languages, I can be part of somebody and of a community. And but my mother tongue language is something which is very connected to the space. I think languages is more than then communication, languages is something. It's a sound. It's the first thing I hear my mother. I can hear my mother even if I'm in the stomach of my mother. So the way how the language is developed and how languages can be used in the society. I think at this moment, the racism is something which is very deep in the bodies. So I know it only from my part, because my parents came from now it's Lithuanian, and from the father side they are coming from Poland, which is now Poland, but they both from my family, they didn't know to speak currently German. So I grew up with parents, they had roots from different languages.
Yeah.
And this was very interesting for me, because the fear of not speaking very well or not writing very well, it's so connected to...
I live that daily. I know
yeah, so I think this is very connected, not in a way of I think the language is more connected into the body than that we think that it's connected to the body.
So this work you have behind you is kind of the visual trail of a search for physical language, of like a physical search for language.
Yeah, actually, yeah. This is from communication capture. So I capture all the movements of the body, of the heads while they're talking together. So they had a kind of extension on the head. And at the end of the extension, there were charcoal, and the paper were over all people, they are talking together. And we are used different languages. So one thing I really would like to go deeper into the research, how the language and the movements of our body will change or will show different ways of drawings. So actually this is one of the ways how I collect collective actions of communication. And in this work where everybody had this extension on the head, so we were connected on the same time, on the same ceiling, and we were touching on the same time the paper. So we were all on the same height. So
and you were talking with different language?
So for me it was we were talking in different languages, but the most of the structure was that they started to speak English. So because we are using language for understanding, we are not to use to find another language, let's say body language, to talk to each other. So in this piece, communication capture, I asked, this was my first choreography where I really wanted that the people are communicating outside the construction without words. So I used the extension of the head like antenna to communicate in a very funny way together. Yeah. And when we enter in the construction where the paper was, there we are starting to use our language to talk together.
What conclusions did you get, like after this section?
Pardon?
What conclusions did you draw from this session?
So I think the conclusion, so when I'm doing art, I haven't a conclusion. So it's a process, an ongoing process. But what I really felt very interesting is that one thing of coming together, it's and using the language is more using the language in a way of building up a field of empathy. And so this is actually a very interesting aspect of or question I'm thinking about, how we can be interconnected even if we are only sitting together. So the conclusion of this work was, because there were two possibilities to get into the performance. As a guest from the outside, you can have this headset on your head while not talking to nobody and talking to other people using the antenna to make some movements. So so there were different ways to get in contact together. So the one was being outside and just being in a traditional performance, being outside and being part of the audience. And the other moment was to be in contact to each other, but to talk in a non-verbal way together. And the third thing, to sitting in the construction and to use the language for talking together. So, so the question for me is how we can talk, how we can communicate while using the breath, for example. So this is what I did at the Zoom performance. So I was interested in how we can be together and sharing the same space while charging the space only with our breath, which is impossible at this moment. But the breath is something which in the inhaling and exhaling, we are all the time connected to each other. And we are also connected to all the species through our organs. So, I think I'm coming very from a very physical way of thinking about communication on one side, and on the other side, I'm very interested in how languages are made us in a way of that we can be part of something, that we can be part of a community. Or if I'm able to if I would be able to not use my language and to have antenna to get in a very empathic way in contact to other people, that is seen as a language, I think the society would change a little bit. I think this could be also a vision for this pandemic, because if I know, if I can use another language than the talkative language, I'm sure that I would be able to be more in contact to plants or to humans, and to humans in a in different levels. Yeah, so this is a very high vision I have.
How do you scale non-verbal communication? Because verbal communication is scalable. You can connect 1 million people through verbal communication. How do you scale non-verbal communication?
What do you mean with scale?
Yeah, again, numbers, like we can connect through our breathing if we are 10, if we are 100, but not if we are 1 million. And whereas language allows us to scale, like we can communicate with 1 million people through verbal language. And, but these, with antennas, we can connect with like 100 people, maybe 1,000 people, but we cannot connect with our physical antennas with somebody in China. And so how can you scale? How effective in terms of creating some sort of global sense of responsibility with a non-verbal communication?
I think the communication starts with yourself. This is simple, but if you are able to know more about your way, how your breath is connected to the outside. So we are all yeah, so I think this is something which is which Corona, the pandemic, can show us that we are very fragile. So we are all very fragile. So we can be connected. So the virus can be everywhere, and the fear also can affect us to be more cruel or to be more isolated, or to take more care about my car or my apartment. Or but the other side can be also that we are thinking more about our atmosphere. So I think the way how we use our body in the capitalistic global situation is we are never, so at this situation, it could be a very good time to think about that what we did with our atmosphere is part of our bodies, and how we can drive cars and invent a huge pollution, we would be more connected to our lungs. So this is something that I'm interested in, and I think lungs and organs are, at this moment, became a political issue. So in the moment where
we live that here in São Paulo, it's like what the sort of treatment we get is being decided in the kind of rivalry between two politicians.
Yeah.
And what would you say, if we look historically, often we see, like in a romantic way, we see like artists kind of showing first what history shows later. And is there anything that art can teach us about the new normal?
This is a huge question. I think the responsibility of the artist, as I see myself as an artist, so I took my abilities, I educate my abilities, I use my abilities for the society. So for me, art is always connected to the daily life. And if art is not treated as it was also in the pandemic, only the galleries could be open and the museums had to be closed, I think this is a completely wrong way of thinking about art. So it has to be that it would be fantastic if all museums open and all the people in the pandemic situation has to go once in a week in a museum, and everybody for free. I think this could change something, because the way of thinking,
cultural cure, healing,
it's not understandable for the moment, that you can't buy, that it's more in the way of thinking about what you can see. I think this is the way how art has to be connected in the society. And the moment when art and the artist treated as themselves treated as a producer and art producer for the galleries, for getting more money for selling the arts, I think this is completely the wrong way of thinking about art. I think the art could be something which is, or is, on my opinion, art is the only moment where we get in a very how do you say? So it's the possibility to connect things together. They are normally in our structured life are not connected. I think this could be the goal for art on one side, and on the other side, if artists are taking responsibility of that, then I think they are able. I would never say that I'm able to do that, so I try to do it, but then they could be able to say something about the future, or to see something before the structure is able to see this. So, and yeah, I think this is.
Are there other works do you want to show us another artwork, or I don't know, either the studio, if you want to screen share, or whatever is easier for you?
So it depends from what you would like to see. So I can show you some organs. This is actually my work, my newest work I did, because I like organs.
Yeah. Well, what are you excited to share?
And I could show. So I made a very funny. So I can turn around my laptop. Nice, isn't it? Yeah. I thought about it.
Oh, so there's like a little trolley in.
Yeah. So actually, but I think you can't see it very well. So I made, during this time, I made very, very small paperworks on charcoal dust. And
the reflections on language.
Pardon?
The reflections on language.
No, this is what I thought, how we can invent a language which can connect us to all species. And as I said before, that we are connected with our lungs to everybody. I started to think about our organs.
Yeah, and the two bodies trying to communicate, isn't it? Two souls, or the two beings that are trying to communicate or not?
Because our fear, if you are, so in our language, the heartbreak or the organs are connected to our language, and in a way or in a different way in our languages. Because if you are fear, the fear is in your stomach, for example. How a social situation is connected to your organs. What I said, I thought about how we can how I can lose our face-to-face communicational way, how we can connect it in different ways. So that's why I started to work on organs, but this is so new, I can't say so.
Can you show me the other one on the left?
You're curious. These are kidneys.
Right.
And it looks, so actually it's not possible to see it from, yeah, so the camera is too bad. I think you can't see it so well.
Well, I can get an idea of what you are researching. Yeah. And I love your movable camera. Very clever.
How I can explain and how I can. So actually, these are 3 drawings. I made. These are one of my first drawings I made with 4 people. So here you can see 4 people are eating together, and here. So these are all head drawings, and these are 4 people are dancing together.
And on the left, you had what? You had the antennas, and the paper was on the floor, on the ceiling.
On the ceiling.
So you were like this, like drawing with a head, and then.
Yeah, but these are unconscious. So these movements are unconsciousness. So because we are moving, I'm moving my head and my hands and my feet while I'm talking to you. So. And this is actually the question, I think this could be the question for, the answer for your question, how I can scale communication. If I won't use the language, I'm using my body all the time. And I'm thinking about how we can left the spoken language on one side to know more about our language-based movements and to know more about our communication. So
were you talking while you were doing that drawing?
Huh?
Is that the register? Did you register movements while you were talking and you had verbal communication going, or were you trying to communicate?
Yeah, so these are the eating situation, and we talk together while eating.
Okay. Okay. And then when you were dancing, so you were following the music. You were following some music. Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Now I can. It was off for a moment. Now I can.
Ah, what's happened? But
Yeah,
yeah,
the
this is bad.
internet's not as reliable as your trolley there.
Ah, this could be. Yeah, this could be. And these, can you hear me now?
Yep. What is this one?
And these are four people are standing together while talking. So the way of, so the architect, it's not only our body, it's also the architectonical way how we are used to talk together. So in the antique, for example, the people were walking while they talking. Now in the pandemic time, I see a lot of people walking while talking because the coffee bars are closed. So the way how we talk, we are used in our culture, we are used to sit down and to drink a coffee and then to talk, or to stay stable while talking. And I was interested in how the movements are changed while we are standing and while we are sitting. For example, this is, I don't know if you can see, this is an intimacy talk.
Right.
With a very good friend of mine, and we were sitting on a sofa.
And you had the antennas?
Yeah.
And the paper on the ceiling?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your conclusion? I mean, you don't, what did you feel? Oh, I see. And when you look at that drawing of this kind of intimate, like a friendly talk, and what do you see like with the register that was created from that conversation?
So I think so I made this work now so I made a lot of different works, but the communicational works based on languages, I made the research since 5 years, and from all the different drawings you can see different ways of energies. So, and at this moment I'm working together with a virologe, so with a biologist. I'm working together with a biologist because he saw my drawings and said that the way how the movements are constructed are connected to the communication of our human cells. And he start to make interpretation about my drawings, and he can see different energy levels and different way how the cells, so let's say the head imprints, are communicating together. So I have more than 60 different drawings of this head drawings. And the way how people are connected together, I can see it in my drawings, not in a way how, what we talk about, but more in a way how the relation was together, and how the energy between those people comes together.
Amazing, amazing. I'm loving this, but I'll have to go in a few minutes, and it's been very special. Thank you for sharing of this. Maybe when I come to Berlin, we'll do one of those one of those drawings and see what it looks like.
Can you hear me?
If it was off for a moment, and your
Okay.
your video went down. It's beautiful studio.
Yeah, it is. It is. So yeah, it's a very beautiful studio. So I make one turn. So there's a very, very huge drawing, and then we can say goodbye. I let you go.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You need you need space to do the kind of research you're researching. You need space.
Yeah, I need space. Yeah, I need space. Yeah, I need space.
And I like how you are reinventing in a way, like formal drawings, isn't it? And because like there's a lot of conversation about what's the purpose of kind of formal, like a research and like maybe in, I don't know, 50 years ago, this would be like abstract drawings. And today you look with like kind of the background of contemporary art and what's happening in the world, etc. And it's a completely different research, although on surface it's
so actually, it would be really, really interesting to get more into different social circle or social levels to speak to different people. They're coming from completely different way of thinking about art or living together. So my wish would be to make panel discussion or to go in a very aggressive way of talking to let people talk together. They are not completely in the art world, and they have very contradictions between how we can live together. And then I think the way how they would fight together and the way how they will find conclusions, I'm sure that you would see this in the drawings, because the way how people are in their presence and how the presence is involved in the body is visible in the drawings. Yeah. So this would be my wish, to make huge installations and to have to invite in a museum or somewhere else a lot of different people from different social living in very different social situations, and then they came together and we invent different way how we can talk together, how we can find languages together. This would be my goal.
Amazing, great idea. I like it. I like it.
Me too.
Yeah, I can see you're very excited. Very inspiring. Okay, well, thank you I think we could talk for hours. It's very, very interesting research and work and point of view. It was great. We could finally connect, and maybe we'll continue this conversation sometime soon.
Yeah, I would love to.
Let's make that happen.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Yes. So how do you, in this, if we reset language, how do we finish? How do we hug, and how if we're resetting language?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Do you have an idea? Do you have an idea?
Let's apply all this research for some daily purpose.
Yeah, let's apply. Yeah. Yeah, let's connect. Yeah.
Cool. And I think the fact that we're considering it is already something. It's putting in a different space of thought is already something. Okay. Well, once more. So thank you, and we'll talk again soon, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Beijos.
Bye bye.